Tossing and turning at night? Waking up exhausted? We've all been there. Sounds like it's time to try the melatonin-free CBD sleep gummies from Cornbread Hemp. Cornbread Hemp produces America's first USDA organic, melatonin-free CBD gummy. Fall asleep and stay asleep with CBD sleep gummies that are infused with full-spectrum, flower-only hemp extract and include natural botanicals like valerian root, lavender, and chamomile. They're vegan, gluten-free, and made without a sugar coating. Just clean, natural ingredients. Right now, Cornbread Hemp is offering 30% off your first order. Just go to cornbreadhemp.com/whatnext and use code WhatNext at checkout. That's cornbreadhemp.com/whatnext, code WhatNext for 30% off.
Well, I was down on my last dollar and then I started saving because the bank said fiscal restraint is what you're craving. So I put my earnings in a high yield account. Let the savings compound and the interest mount. I'm optimizing cash flow, putting debt in check now. Time is my friend and not a pain in the neck. And we've got a little cash to rebuild the old deck.
Boring money moves make kind of lame songs, but they sound pretty sweet to your wallet. PNC Bank. Brilliantly boring since 1865.
As someone who speaks words into a microphone for a living, I gotta say, right now, I have a lot of sympathy for Jimmy Kimmel, whose show has been put on indefinite hiatus because he offended Donald Trump. I was not a fan of Kimmel's. I did not watch his show. I'm sympathetic because it seems to have been so easy to silence him.
We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything.
By now you know, it was a monologue about Charlie Kirk's murder that set MAGA world off. Kimmel chastised the right for trying to score political points from Kirk's death. He said the MAGA gang was trying to characterize Kirk's murderer as anything other than one of them. And then he went after the president.
You can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction.
In the days since, it's become clear Trump's White House really cannot take the joke. The first clue was when the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission popped up on a right-wing podcast.
In some quarters, there's a very concerted effort to try to lie to the American people about the nature, as you indicate, of one of the most significant, newsworthy public interest acts that we've seen in a long time.
The Federal Communications Commission chair, Brendan Carr, appeared on the far-right podcaster Benny Johnson's show.
Slate's Nitish Pawa has been following this story.
Carr specifically alluded not just to Kimmel's monologue, but also steps that the FCC could conceivably take to retaliate against certain people.
I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or, there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
That's a threat.
That is absolutely a threat. And the broadcasters took it as such.
Making a staffing decision like this, right on the heels of a public threat, it sent a brutal message about who can say what in this country. The thing is, big media companies have been tiptoeing around the White House for a while now. CBS canceled late-night host and Trump critic Stephen Colbert earlier this year. Its parent company settled a defamation case with Trump, too. ABC donated to the president's library after he complained about George Stephanopoulos' reporting.
All the big media giants are willing to fold to this administration just in terms of sheer self-interest.
Is all this happening so fast?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm like,
In 3.5 years, at the end of the Trump administration, I'm trying to figure out what media looks like.
I think it looks far more consolidated than ever before. And yeah, just much more right-wing in all aspects than ever before. Because you're not just seeing this in TV, you're seeing this in newspapers, you're seeing this in social media, right? I mean, famously, the Washington Post just, their opinion section just kicked out Karen Attiah over what? Tweets, posts she made about Charlie Kirk. And it's not good. It's really not good.
Today on the show, the forces behind the MAGA media takeover. It is not just politics. It's also cold, hard cash. I'm Mary Harris. You're listening to What Next? Stick around.
Welcome to
Only Murders in the Building,
the official podcast.
Join me, Michael Cyril Creighton, as we go behind the scenes with some of the amazing actors, writers, and crew from season 5.
The audience should never stop suspecting anything.
How can you not be funny crawling around on a coffin?
No, that's true.
Catch Only Murders in the Building official podcast, now streaming wherever you get your podcasts. And watch Only Murders in the Building, streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply.
This episode is brought to you by Upwork. Scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, and design who are ready to help you take your business to the next level. Companies at every stage turn to Upwork to get things done and find more flexibility in the way they staff key projects and initiatives. Upwork's global marketplace is filled with top talent in IT, web development, AI, design, administrative support, marketing, and more. Posting a job on Upwork is easy. With no cost to join, you can register, browse freelancer profiles, get help drafting a job post, or even book a consultation. From there, you can connect with freelancers and easily hire them. Upwork makes the entire process simpler and more affordable with industry-low fees. Post a job today and hire tomorrow with Upwork. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork.com to post your job for free and connect with top talent ready to help your business grow. That's UPWORK.com, Upwork.com. Things are happening so fast that there's actually multiple stories to tell about what's going on in the world of journalism, corporate media, all the mergers in place. So before getting into the Jimmy Kimmel story in detail, I just want to kind of set the stage. And I'm hoping you can talk to me a little bit about this main character in the Trump administration who is really helping to engineer this moment from behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. His name is Brendan Carr, head of the FCC. Mm-hmm. You wrote about Brendan Carr when he was coming into the administration. What do we need to know about him?
So the main thing to know about Brendan Carr, he's been at the FCC for a hot minute now.
He was there first with Trump won and then through Biden, right?
Yeah, exactly. Biden actually renominated him because generally agency appointees are supposed to be a bipartisan process. Even Democratic presidents, take recommendations from Republican lawmakers about who to nominate so that there's generally like a 3-2 balance, in one partisan direction or the other. It's officially nonpartisan, but everyone knows.
Is he like the usual employee at the FCC?
He is usual in the sense that he has worked with government and regulation and the commission for a long time in various aspects. He is much more unusual in how, you could just see throughout the Biden administration, he really kind of stepped out into his own as his own sort of main character. Like you'd always see him on Twitter, on like conservative talk shows or just elsewhere, wherever he had a soapbox, just like all but like undermining the administration, talking crap about like what the FCC under Biden was doing. Like,
so he's a gadfly.
Yeah, exactly. So not only was he like an official dissenting voice on like various votes or whatever, but he was a very public dissenter. And it's also worth noting, he is a co-author on Project 2025,
He wrote the Project 2025 chapter about the FCC, right?
Exactly. Literally the moment Trump won the election, I mean, he already basically started acting like he was chair. And that's when he started telling, CBS 60 Minutes, like, hey, so that merger you guys want with Skydance, I have some thoughts.
Yeah. So Carr takes the helm, and it was already this moment of rapid media consolidation. Like that was sort of spinning on its own, but he now has a lot of power in that world, right? Let's talk about how he exercises that power. You mentioned CBS, 60 Minutes. He, of course, comes into his role as Paramount and Skydance are considering merging. That includes CBS. He has to approve it. How did he make sure the Trump administration got what they wanted out of that merger?
He stepped right in talking about like these liberal media outlets, if they are continuing to, parrot like leftist propaganda against Trump, we may have to take a look at their broadcast licenses. And I mean, you can't get much more explicit than that. And I think a lot of media outlets were cowed by that, not least because linear traditional cable TV was already like in decline as a general format. Like streaming had already come to eat its lunch, but
this is why the mergers are happening.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah. There's so a lot of these media houses are trying super hard to downplay, like write down their TV assets, merge with other news to get like bigger and better and, more powerful. Like
they can see the party ending.
And if this guy is just coming in and threatening them over this, they're like, okay, I mean, well, anyway, it's not a big part of our business, so we'll fold. I don't care.
It's still early days, but I do think now that the Paramount Skydance merger is complete, you can begin to see how the influence of someone like Brendan Carr in charge of the FCC can be felt, where he's not necessarily having to tell CBS to do certain things, but the people are in place to run the business in a way that is preferential to the administration. Explain some of the hiring decisions that are being made or considered now that the merger is complete.
Right. Yeah. So Skydance is owned by David Ellison, son of Larry Ellison, the very infamous tech CEO.
He runs Oracle, right?
Oracle, I should clarify, big early software player, very important in terms of like software as a service, in terms of cloud computing, in terms of AI, in terms of general like government contracting, both here and internationally. And I mean, he's not technically CEO of it anymore, but he basically runs it. Like, there's a famous joke in Silicon Valley that Oracle is an acronym for one rich asshole called Larry Ellison, because everyone knows that like he's running the show. He decides the things.
So David Ellison runs Skydance. His father, Larry Ellison, is basically floating his ownership of Skydance, right?
Yeah,
financially?
like he's not not CEO of Skydance, but he has all the money. He's like advised where he furnished a lot of the cash for the merger because he's a very, very wealthy man, among the world's top 5 wealthiest at this point. So he's there. He's ready to make it happen. Trump has even acknowledged this much. He like said during a press conference, I know Larry very well. I think he'll do great. And
well, now you can see who's being, considered for positions within CBS. People have talked about Barry Weiss, the editor of the Free Press, former New York Times opinion columnist. People are talking about bringing her in to run something at CBS. She's quite conservative. This would be a huge change for a news organization that was seen as kind of the crown jewel of televised news organizations for a long time.
And yeah, she's probably the best known name that, Ellison has talked about bringing in. I mean, he's talked about like them acquiring the Free Press altogether at like a ridiculous valuation, but they're also like hiring a quote unquote ombudsman to like monitor CBS and other properties for bias. And the person they're bringing for that comes from, the conservative media sphere.
And then within weeks of this Skydance Paramount merger being done, and obviously we're seeing these implications roll out, it becomes clear that the Ellison family wants to grow their media empire even more.
Oh, yeah.
Explain how, because this is so vast what they're considering at this point, which is taking over Warner Brothers and also being involved with TikTok. It basically creates a super media organization, I'd say.
Right.
Has any one family had this much media power before? I mean, assuming these go through, right? These all have to go through, we should say. So this is not a done deal. But if it did go through, it just strikes me as a vast amount of power.
Yeah. This is I don't think we've seen ownership of media to this extent since the Hearst age, the Gilded Age. I mean, if the Ellisons were to take over TikTok, where most youth get their news insofar as they get their news there, it would be CNN, it would be CBS.
I was reading a New York Times profile of the Ellison family, and one thing the writer pointed out was that Larry Ellison, who is 81, so older, but very much running things in a lot of ways, he's been trying to make the world better by pushing for a surveillance society. His idea is basically there should be cameras everywhere, every movement analyzed by AI.
Citizens will be on their best behavior because we're constantly recording and reporting everything that's going on. And it's unimpeachable. The Carrs.
He told this to Oracle investors last fall.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, whoa. Especially if you're purchasing potentially an asset like TikTok, where people are uploading their own videos and sharing a lot of themselves. That's a lot of information to give to someone who has beliefs like that.
I don't disagree with the people who have concerns over TikTok and the relationship it has with the Chinese government, which owns a small stake in the parent company ByteDance, and the amount of data it gathers on users. I think it is highly concerning. The problem I have is that a lot of the people in power now who, have been, going after TikTok are basically, their problem isn't the data hoovering and surveillance. Their problem is that America isn't doing the data hoovering and surveillance. Otherwise, we would have finally cracked down on Facebook long ago. Same with Instagram, etc. All these social networks that just serve as ad surveillance marketplaces now. And we're going to get that again with TikTok, and it's going to be just handed over to friends of the president. I mean, I'm sure you're going to see a lot more conservative advertisers on these networks. I mean, that works great for the Ellisons because they get the money.
We'll be back after a quick break. This episode is brought to you by Saks Fifth Avenue. With the weather getting cooler, if you're like me, you're looking around for a couple of new items for your wardrobe, like a new sweater, some cute new kicks. And Saks Fifth Avenue makes it easy to get creative with your personal style and find the best arrivals for fall. I went over to Saks.com to check out what they've got on tap, and I gotta say, what I love about clicking around their website is that every piece looks special, one of a kind, as if you'd walk into the office or a party and instantly grab everyone's attention. All the big brands are there, stuff like Allison Olivia, the young and trendy stuff. I love that I can see the care in every piece Saks has chosen for their fall collections. Each dress or pant or shoe feels a little bit elevated. So if you want shopping to be fun and easy, head over to Saks Fifth Avenue for inspiring ways to elevate your personal style every day. Decisions made in Washington can affect your portfolio every day. But what policy changes should investors be watching? Listen to Washington Wise, an original podcast for investors from Charles Schwab, to hear the stories making news in Washington right now. Host Mike Townsend, Charles Schwab's managing director for legislative and regulatory affairs, takes a nonpartisan look at the stories that matter most to investors, including policy initiatives for retirement savings, taxes and trade, inflation concerns, the Federal Reserve, and how regulatory developments can affect companies, sectors, and even the entire market. Mike and his guests offer their perspective on how policy changes could affect what you do with your portfolio. Download the latest episode and follow at schwab.com/WashingtonWise or wherever you listen.
The spirit of innovation is deeply ingrained in America, and Google is helping Americans innovate in ways both big and small. From improving emergency response times to protecting against cyber attacks, local, state, and federal governments are innovating with Google AI. This is a new era of American innovation. Find out more at g.co/American Innovation.
So, through the story of the Ellison family and how they have worked hand in glove with the Trump administration, you can see that media conglomerates are at a turning point. Last week, into all this, came Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy Kimmel works at ABC, which has nothing to do with the Ellison family, but its parent company, Disney, is facing the same market pressures. In fact, ABC's affiliate stations have been coming to the FCC seeking mergers of their own. For those to go through, they need the Trump administration's blessing.
So, Nexstar, the single largest owner of local TV stations in the country, and Sinclair owns more stations with ABC affiliates specifically. And Nexstar is in agreements for a merger as well. It is a $6.2 billion valued merger with the media company Tegna, which owns a few dozen TV stations.
So ABC's affiliates, which are these sort of franchise station owners, Sinclair, Nexstar, they're looking to do their own merging. And all of a sudden this Jimmy Kimmel thing happens. The FCC chair is clearly very upset about it. And they think, oh, crap, are we maybe not going to get our merger approved?
Exactly. And that's why I think you saw Nexstar and Sinclair move on this before Disney even did. I'm not even sure Disney would have moved on this had Carr not directly threatened the broadcasters and then the broadcasters caved.
So what do we need to know about Sinclair Broadcasting and Nexstar? Because I've heard of Sinclair because they're known to be quite conservative.
Yeah.
So would they have maybe kicked Jimmy Kimmel off the air on their stations no matter what?
Yeah, and I think so. Alluding to their official statement on the whole thing. I mean, Sinclair has always been pretty proudly conservative. In this statement, it's just so blatant from the C-suite. I mean, they're saying, regardless of ABC's plans for the future of the program, Sinclair intends not to return Jimmy Kimmel to the air until we are confident, appropriate steps have been taken to uphold the standards expected of a national broadcast platform, which basically means that if ABC doesn't become more conservative or compliant, they, with regard to Jimmy Kimmel especially, they will just refuse. And they're leveraging some major power here because, again, Sinclair is the single largest carrier of ABC affiliates in local markets. And I mean, who is watching ABC through these local markets? The exact same people who still watch TV through a cord in the year 2025. It's a lot of older folks. It's a lot of more local communities. It's a lot of folks that only have that broadcast hookup, and they may not have the greatest, high-speed internet, say, for streaming.
You're raising this interesting point, which I think is important, which is in this era of consolidation, it's partially happening because people aren't watching in the same ways, right? They're not turning on the same big three networks each night, which raises this question of, okay, we have ABC and CBS clearly vulnerable in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
How much does it matter? Because a lot of Americans aren't tuning in the way they once did.
That is true. But even going beyond like the viewership, population aspect of it, I think just on principle, as an American citizen who believes in the First Amendment, I think it's pretty sick. I just don't think we should be firing hosts for random things they send their monologues. That's really not the American way. It reminds me so much of what we've seen in India under Modi. Like, it's so much of the same formula as what you saw when he was rising up there in 2014. Like, a lot of news networks just kind of cowed into not being confrontational to the administration because then they will threaten, oh, we're going to remove our government ads from your networks. Oh, we are going to send some officers there to check on what's going on. Oh, we're going to go to these other guys and talk about how much you guys are biased. And I don't want to see that here.
We talked a little bit about Brendan Carr, the head of the FCC, the fact that he wrote the chapter on the FCC for Project 2025, which is controversial.
Which may be, a violation of the Hatch Act.
Yes, I was going to say. Does that give you any hints about what he might do next?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think the fact that they are getting these victories means they're just going to be all the more empowered, right? Right now, NBC and MSNBC and such, or I guess it's called MS Now. I don't know. Like, they're going through a huge reorganization. And I am 100% positive that a lot of that is going to be informed by what goes on, what like Brendan Carr whispers on the sidelines. I mean, the more and more this escalates, I think the more and more we are just going to see every last like once really trusted like outlet become less willing to confront this administration for fear that they are going to be, called up by Brendan Carr or called out on a podcast or something.
There's an opportunity in that.
Yeah.
For some rich person who does not give an F to come in and be like, yeah, I'm not going to do that.
I would love that. Unfortunately, it seems all liberal donors are doing these days is funding new think tanks about why Democratic messaging is bad now or something. So, look, I would love that. Like, please give us, I don't know, like
Craig
fund these
from
networks.
Craigslist.
Yeah, exactly. Craig Newmark. He's done great stuff with local media in New York as well. But alas, I don't know. And I mean, that's the other thing too, is that you've already seen from the conservative media sphere and from conservative politicians so much targeting of, people like George Soros, right? He's like the boogeyman for every like protest or liberal nonprofit or whatever. And yes, he has spread his money pretty far and wide, but these conspiracies often tend to take a pretty anti-Semitic tone. But if, George Soros is just the beginning, I mean, they will definitely go after any other billionaire who wants to fund, more networks. I mean, it will have to be a billionaire who's really ready to take on the powers that be.
Tish, I'm so grateful for your time. Thanks for coming on the show.
Grateful for you. Thanks for having me.
Nitish Pawa is a staff writer who covers business and tech here at Slate. After we recorded our conversation, Nexstar, the owner of all those ABC affiliates, denied that the FCC influenced their decision to remove Jimmy Kimmel from the airwaves. Sinclair Media Group decided to replace Jimmy Kimmel's Friday show with a remembrance of Charlie Kirk. And that's our show. What Next is produced by Elena Schwartz, Rob Gunther, Anna Phillips, and Madeline Ducharme. Paige Osburn is the senior supervising producer of What Next and What Next TBD. Mia Lobel is the head of audio here at Slate. Ben Richmond is the senior director of podcast operations. And I'm Mary Harris. Go track me down on Blue Sky. Say, hey, I'm at Mary Harris. Thanks for listening. Catch you back here next time. Decisions made in Washington can affect your portfolio every day. But what policy changes should investors be watching? Washington Wise is an original podcast from Charles Schwab that unpacks the stories making news in Washington right now and how they may affect your finances and portfolio. Listen at schwab.com/WashingtonWise.
Doug. Here we have the Limu Emu in its natural habitat, helping people customize their car insurance and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Fascinating. It's accompanied by his natural ally, Doug.
Limu? Is that guy with the binoculars watching us?
Cut the camera. They see us.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
Savings vary. Underwritten by Liberty Mutual Insurance Company and affiliates. Excludes Massachusetts.